Rise and shine, Value Farm family. Welcome back to another episode of The Farm. If you're new here, you are most welcome. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and also turn your notification bells on. And of course, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys so much. And thank you so much for being part of the family, part of the journey at Value Farm. Yeah, we really appreciate you guys so much. If you haven't already followed us on our social media platforms, we have Instagram page, that is Value Farm UG. Then we also have Facebook, that is Value Farm UG. Please go and follow us up there. Well, we are back at the farm, and it's very interesting to be back at the farm. It is very sunny, as you can see. It is beautiful. We are happy to be back here. I also have my co-director on standby, who is going to say hello to you guys and also introduce himself to you guys who are watching him for the very first time.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Grafton. I'm one of your co-directors here at Value Farm. Yes, the sun is finally showing its beautiful rays once again. We've been experiencing a ton of rain.
True.
And of course, if you ever lived on the continent, you know this is rainy season, especially eastern part of Africa. I'm sure it's probably the same on the western side of Africa as well. Perhaps not. But like today, the reason actually I wanted to, participate in this video is to share with you guys a question we get all the time.
Yeah.
Should we, we don't have much space. We want to get into goat rearing. What should we do? Well, today I would like to make the case to you guys for zero grazing. Mm-hmm. And part of zero grazing is exactly what it sounds like. You don't set your animals out on free range. Either A, you don't have the land, space to do it. B, you're in an area that's similar to this. So where we are, you always ask us how big is the farm. In terms of land mass, it's a sizable place. We're close to 75 acres plus, approaching 100 acres plus, to be quite honest with you. But ultimately, where we are is a section of the farm that does not actually get rid of water at a quick enough pace. So what does that mean? This area is slightly waterlogged. Yeah. And many of you out there may find yourself in a situation like this. And that's why we wanted to actually bring this content to you based on zero grazing, because even if you're in an area like this during the rainy season, the grounds are going to be soaked. When the rain comes, in terms of seepage, for some reason, this is more or less clay soil. It just holds on to the water and it just sits there, right? But the crazy thing about this particular type of soil, it goes from being super hard and very dry to when it rains, it just keeps the water on the surface.
True.
So if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, you can't have your goats out here free ranging. This is okay for cattle.
Yeah.
It handles the water a lot better than goats. And so if you're in an area where it's waterlogged, or you find yourself on clay, right? And you know exactly where the water is going to be on your land, do not be discouraged. Don't give up. This is actually a very good challenge, because whereas everybody else would look at this as an impossible obstacle to overcome, look at it as opportunity.
True.
Land like this typically will not cost you the same as regular fertile soil that could be used for more than just grazing. So for those of you where your pockets are somewhat challenged, which is most of us these days, right?
Yeah, true.
You can actually get yourself some land like this. It's great for grazing, right?
Yeah.
But it's also a great place you can set up your structure, make sure it's elevated off the ground. You cannot keep your goats in an area like this on the ground.
True.
And you'll be good to go.
I know most of you have been asking, I have only 1 acre. I don't have where to graze my animals. I don't have where to take my goats. What am I going to do? Zero grazing is a solution for you. If at all you have like maybe 2 acres of land, utilize it for your structures and part of it for your grass. If you're using zero grazing, that means you have to plant your own grass so that you can take for your animals, for your goats, of course. So if you have a small piece of land, plant things like alfalfa, sugar graze, make silage for your animals, which is really very, very good, and it's very nutritious for your goats. The most important thing about zero grazing, there is close monitoring of your goats. You will be able to know what amount of nutrients you're giving them. You're monitoring that the feeds you're giving them. It's not like free range, how they go in the field. You don't know how much quantity the goats have really taken in. It is really very good. So people who have small pieces of land, do not lose hope. Zero grazing is the way to go, and you can definitely also make profits from it.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point. And guys, let me tell you something. Though we love free ranging,
Yes.
but let me tell you the advantages to zero grazing. As my partner just mentioned, you have a controlled environment. You know what's coming into your goat pen. You know what you're giving your goats. And guess what? When you are zero grazing, it greatly reduces the exposure to other parasites, hoof and mouth disease. And then another thing too, when you have your option of just zero grazing, you know, you don't have to worry about your goats meeting poisonous frog. Did you guys know? We actually lost one of our prized goats while she was out here free ranging. She ate a tiny, tiny, tiny little poisonous frog while he was eating some of the shrubs, and the goat literally just dropped dead. So we had an autopsy done. The vet found the poisonous frog, and that was a lesson learned. But that's also part of being, you know, out here. It's part of farming. Accidents does happen. But by the same token, that got us to thinking, you know what, even though we have a lot of land, we do have space. Space for us is not a challenge. Where it might be for some of you out there, you know, you do have tremendous advantages when you can control what you feed your goats, when you feed them. You don't have to worry about water. You don't have to worry about any of those other things that might be a challenge, right? But then when you do free range, you know, you always contending with the rain, right? Even when you have the dry areas to take your goats to, you always have to look at the rain. You always have to worry about the dew. You know, you always so your schedule sometimes is dictated based on weather pattern. But when you zero grazing, you know, you can set the clock. You know, if you're feeding your goats in the afternoon, you either have your bale of hay, you have your silage, you have whatever feed you decide to come up, whatever formulation you want to use. And that's pretty much it. And what most people typically do, they have the elephant grass and other types of grass that they grow. And if you don't have enough space for that, you can actually go harvest it. A lot of these guys get close to the swamp. They get to the side of the road, and you just see them cutting grass. And the grass is very nutritious. And that's the beauty, right? You have control.
Let's talk about theft. There's less theft when you're zero grazing because, of course, you're within the perimeter, the structures are within, and at least there's close monitoring of your goats within your structure. Then, of course, when the animals go out grazing, maybe with the herdsmen, you never know the people that you've employed to go and graze these goats, of course. When they go out grazing, they will not disappear. They will not leave them in the field. That is also an advantage of you considering zero grazing. Because there are some times that we find maybe herdsmen in the fields, they can even sell. Some of them are desperate to get the money. They can even sell your goats out there. By the time you come back, some goats are missing and you don't have accountability for that. So zero grazing could be an option for you.
That's actually a tremendous point, guys, because let me tell you what we've experienced and what we've heard other farmers who's in a similar field as us, they share these same challenges, right?
True.
You could have 100 goats. And let's face it, some of these herds people that you employ, you love your animals, but they're there for a paycheck. So many times when they go free ranging, you know, especially for some folks don't have land. And they're still free range. So they literally take their animals on open plains and areas of other people's land that's not yet fenced in. And a lot of the time these herdsmen and women at times will literally leave with 100 goats and miraculously come back with like 95. And then when you ask them, hey, what happened to the other 5 goats? They're usually going to look at you like you have 10 heads. They're going to look at you like, oh my God, I don't know what happened. Maybe the goat stays in the bush. And a lot of them, unless you're on top of it, they're not going to go back. They're not going to do a head count because they simply don't care as much as you do. Why should they? It's not their money. It's your money. So as an owner, as somebody that choose to live this lifestyle, you have to be on top of what's happening at your farm. And that's why zero grazing actually is a wonderful option to help mitigate loss. And another thing you guys have to think about, you might be like us, because we have some good herds people here at the farm, right? But let me tell you another value of actually taking care of your animal on a zero grazing range. So for example, whether you have cattle, especially for those of you that are in dairy, it's never recommended to do free range cattle for dairy, because the more the animal is moving around, they burn more energy. So the milk production will never be as high as it should be. But another reason you guys should consider, it actually comes down to security. Far too often, you have herds people that go out there into the bush, and there are actual criminal elements all around us, especially in these harsh economic times. We've heard stories, we've read it, we've seen it on the news. We talk to other farm owners in the area where their herds people will go out grazing and somebody just ambushed them. And sometimes they get cut. Sometimes some of them, unfortunately, don't survive their injuries. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind, because, you know, yes, you might be a great person, but let's face it, we live on planet Earth. You have good people, you have people with bad intentions out there. And there are a lot of people right now, particularly around the holidays or year round, they're opportunists, right? You know, they just look for an opportunity. If your herds team is out there with 500 goats, which is a lot of money, if they could take out those 3 herdsmen, believe me, they will do it. So sometimes you'll see they might go out with dogs. Sometimes they might have the little bow and arrow. But if it's 3 men versus a gang of 15 to 20 thieves, they stand no chance, right? So that's something you have to keep in mind. And that's another reason too why we always urge you guys to set your own perimeter. And where we are, even though we do practice free ranging for the most part, right? Semi-intensive, right? A combination of zero grazing and free range. We always like for our herdsmen to remain within our compound, because that way it's another level of security. We can see them. We have armed security around. But when you have people out there that take the risk, sometimes some of these herds guys take their cows up to 10 to 15 kilometers to go graze and to get water. The element of danger always looms. So if you can actually practice zero grazing, that's another piece of the puzzle you do not have to worry about. Safety is not a concern, because you know exactly where your animals are, you know where your staff are located at all times, and let's face it, you know, peace of mind is priceless. You can't really put a price on that.
That is so true. By the way, zero grazing can also save you your vet costs, because with the close monitoring of your goats, you'll definitely be able to figure out which animal is sick, which animal maybe is not feeding properly. You can always get that. You can be able to notice that before it gets even worse. Because sometimes you realize maybe if you're in a commercial basis, maybe the goats are going out in big numbers. These herdsmen may not be able to notice maybe if the goat is sick, if it's not feeling fine, not until it is really very weak, beyond control. That's when they maybe notify the manager that maybe the goat is not feeling fine, this and that. Yet that could have been prevented already. So with zero grazing, for people who are considering zero grazing, there is close monitoring, and that will save you your vet costs.
When it comes down to it, right, you know, I know a lot of you always view the lack of enormous space as an obstacle. Guess what? That's not a good enough excuse. You have options. Life is all about options, right? You know, when it comes to farming, once you had a dream of becoming a farmer, now we bring you a solution to make it a reality. So, you know, you can't use, oh, I have a 50 by 100. Oh my gosh, I have 200 by 200. You have enough land. As long as you have a plan, you have your dream, you're ready to work, you're ready to actually really get into the game of farming, the lifestyle of being a farmer, the freedom of being in this arena, it's time to go.
Go for it, guys. I think we've really answered some of your questions. Of course, most people, the issue has been learned. At least we've tried to get a solution for you and also give you advantages and also the reasons as to why. You can definitely start as well. even if you're in a small scale. We always preach on value farm, that start small but think big. So when you start that way, you never know, you'll be able to also increase and also expand with time. But still, we really appreciate all the knowledge that we've shared. My co-director, I really appreciate that as well, and most of you really appreciate his points and his words of wisdom as well. Thank you so much. We also appreciate you guys for always sharing the videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing, like the video, share with your friends. Tell a friend to tell a friend, by the way. Do not keep everything to yourself. Do not be selfish. Value Farm is all about sharing the knowledge. That's why we come here every time to share all the knowledge that we have with you so that you can also share with your friends and family, right? Yeah, I think that is what we had for you today. If in case you have any questions, do not be afraid to leave them down below so that we can be able to answer them maybe in the next video, right? Till next time, bye.